Go ahead once you are ready and we'll start. All right. All set. Excellent. So, good evening, good morning, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Prayank Khandelwal, founding partner, Photon Legal. Photon Legal is primary an IP law firm which helps entrepreneurs across the globe protect and leverage their IP, which predominantly includes patents, trademarks, copyrights, and designs. And today we have fantastic folks with us as part of our day 3 of Global Health Tech Summit. We are doing this Health Tech Summit for many months, and what we try to do is create awareness among the health tech enthusiasts. Those can be the founders, influencers, investors, and the marketing guys who are really associated with the health tech domain and they want to actually make some impact. Today, in the discussion, we have Anurag Meena, who's co-founder of NeoDocs, Akash, who's co-founder of Pharmalogy, plus he's a principal investor at Indian Accelerator, which is an accelerator group in the country. Then we also have Marcela Sabino. She's the co-founder and CEO of Rare Light Immersive Technology Company. She's joining from France. And Anurag and Akash have joined us today from India. And we're going to be having great discussion regarding what is health tech, why is the buzz these days, how landscape has changed post-COVID, and so much so forth. So let me just start the discussion for today by introducing Marcela. So Marcela, thanks for joining us, first of all. So Marcela, you have a degree in political science, design, and then you have an expertise in AI, VR, AR, robotics, IoT, and also you have keen interest in art and culture. That's like an impressive profile, Marcela, and I'm really impressed with the kind of experience you had in the past. And so my question to you is this: you have worked from different levels in terms of like working with Global 500, which is a VC, to working at Museum of Tomorrow, right? Where you actually implemented 3D printing, robotics, big data, IoT, and VR, all of that. So now, what's happening with you? Like right from degree in political science to Museum of Tomorrow. What's the journey? What's happening there? We all want to know. Can you please shed some light on that?
Yes, well, first of all, thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate it. So it sounds like as when you put it that way, it sounds like a varied situation. But in reality, I'm originally from Brazil. I grew up in the US. I lived 2.5 years in Dubai. Pretty global career. I've done consulting in Africa, Asia, Latin America for the World Bank. And the International Finance Corporation and the IDB. So it's been pretty varied, but most of my work has been around implementing large-scale strategy and innovation projects across all the work that I've done that have a very big tech component. So that is one of the things that has really guided the work that I've done. And at the Museum of Tomorrow, I created my own innovation lab there, where we did projects, as you said, with 3D printing, robotics, AI, VR, AR, IoT, all these kinds of things that were future facing. So the idea was taking themes of the future and then using technology as tools to kind of question how our future could be. So using a lot of foresight methodologies. So that is what I've done there. I came to France and started open my own company in the beginning of this year, essentially. And we've been working on essentially helping people leverage these immersive technologies, specifically virtual reality, augmented reality, AI avatars, and interactive solutions to kind of highlight their brand, whether it's marketing, business, and now health tech, which has been a surprise.
Excellent. Great experience you have. And I'm sure the audience and everybody in the panel as well today would going to be learn a lot about your experiences and learn a lot from you. Thank you so much for joining us and helping us with great knowledge and your presence as well. Thank you so much. Next, I would like to introduce Akash Chandrakar. Akash is co-founder at Pharmalogy, which is an agri-tech startup, and he's also a principal investor at Indian Accelerator. He has worked with the large corporates in India, right from Infosys to Hindustan Unilever, and now is been consulting and advising startups on their finance side as well. He's a finance guru as well for those startups. And as what I learned about him is that he also has very keen interest towards your GTM. So people who are joining us today can actually learn a lot from Akash about the GTM as well. Akash, you have any opening remarks you want to share, any or add anything else from your side? Feel free to do so.
Well, thanks for the warm introduction, I would say, Brian. It's really great to see folks like the investors as well as the founders. And as you rightly mentioned, I come in both the shoes, right? I'm having one shoe with the founder, one shoe as an investor. So I pretty much understand the challenge what an investor faces as well as a founder faces. Because coming in the both shoes, I am pretty much comfortable with both as well as I understand the pain points. So yes, as you rightly mentioned, by profession, I'm a techie. I started my career with being a software engineer with Infosys, then moved down to the role of director by founding an IT company in Bangalore and a sister company in Denver in US. I had also had a small, you can say, a company that we had set up for the sale of online international chocolates. So there itself, we created a monopoly in just 10 months down the line in India. And post that, yes, I switched to Unilever as a support manager and upscaled to the role of automation capability manager. And yes, as you rightly mentioned, entrepreneurship, once it starts, it doesn't end that easily, right? So once you have that entrepreneurship within you, always you will find an entrepreneur trying to figure out what's something new that is around the corner. So that actually something which actually kicked me a lot. And I started looking at potential sustainable ventures, I would say, because there is a lot of euphoria in the market that uh, you see a startup growing really good. It's the founders are really fantastic, ideas really loves, but they don't usually the trend was earlier like you usually just go for like the trend, right? So based on that trend you try to follow, but they don't look at whether it's a burning a lot of cash, whether the business is sustainable. And that's one of the primary reasons why we see a lot of startups actually failing down the line. They may be able to raise a 1 round, 2 round, or 3 rounds, and that's max. And after that, there's a huge failure. So my portfolio, when you look across, definitely it's a bit diverse. I do have it as an investor, as a mentor, advisor to startup in D2C, B2B SaaS, EdTech, when I'm already there as a co-founder, and in FinTech, in Space Tech as well, definitely. So I love to help the startups assist and all, but primarily my focus always lies on the impact side of it. There should be some social impact, because once you are aligned to a cause, by default you will be on the right track, and that will actually be a driving force for you. And also in the space where you try to filter out, startups will be sustainable. So it doesn't matter whether a startup may be doing a revenue portion of 20%, right? But if a startup is able to sustain, and let's say next 5 years down the line as well, I think the startup makes a sense to it should be investable, I would say. But that definitely one of the key marks I keep on focused when I'm trying to take a call whether the startup should be invested or not.
Okay, excellent points you mentioned about even about the journey of the startup and when one should be actually investing, or what is the lifetime of a startup where one should actually can take a very risk-free bet on any startup to succeed. Great points there. Thank you so much, Akash. I'm sure we're going to be learning a lot from you in this session as well. Third speaker, which I would like to introduce today, is Anurag Meena. Anurag is a dear friend and also co-founder of Neodocs. One interesting thing about Anurag is that he started his first venture when he was in college. He did not even finish his degree, but he had a venture and the dollars coming in the pocket as well. So he's an entrepreneur, comes from an entrepreneurial route. The entire family is also business with the business mindset, and he started very young. And currently, he's on to his third company. Yeah, Anurag. Yeah, so he's on to his third company again, health tech. Uh, Great guy. Thank you so much, Anurag, for coming over. So Neodocs is doing some fantastic work, and I would like Anurag to share more about Neodocs and his journey so far. And yes, over to you, Anurag.
Yeah, so thanks, Priyank, for the introduction. So I'm an engineer by education and have my heart set on medical, med tech and health tech. As Priyank mentioned, I started my first venture when I was in my pre-final year. I graduated from IIT Bombay with a BTech in engineering physics, and started my first venture in health tech around pregnancy care. Venture is still up and running, revenue generating. Moved on to my second venture, designing and developing medical devices as a service for other companies. And then around like a year before COVID, started venturing into developing my own products, and Neodox is the brainchild of that. And fast forward today, what we do is we transform your smartphone into a clinical grade medical device. So we provide test strips like this to the user, and the user applies the sample on the test strips, waits for 10 to 20 seconds for the strips to get into action, clicks an image using the smartphone application, and we quantify up to 15 parameters today within 30 to 40 seconds, and ranging from kidney health, liver health, hydration during the course of pregnancy care, and provide the results within 30 to 40 seconds, having 5-6 products commercially available in India, started exports a while back. And yeah, entrepreneurship I embraced it during the time of college and have been having a great time enjoying what I'm doing.
Excellent, excellent. Fantastic to have you here, Anurag. Thanks for joining us. And the next speaker on the panel today we have is Doron York. He's joined us from the US. He's the chairman and CEO of Cityside Venture. Doron has been a business coach for more than 250 plus startups so far. And within his 25 years of careers, he has helped a lot of startups and the founders to run very highly scalable business as well. He specializes in training the team to deliver high performance as well as create scalable business models as well. From ideation to rapid scalability is what something Doron specializes in. He's an early stage investor himself. Thank you so much for Doron joining us today. Would love to learn a lot from you. In fact, I have a question for you. Since now you have been training and teaching people for more than 25 years as an executive coach, my question to you is that, who is your coach? Who do you take coaching from? Doron, you're on mute. You got to unmic yourself.
Yeah, my wife.
Wow. Excellent. I did not expect that. Lovely. You wanna elaborate that a bit?
Yeah, I mean, I started my career. I'm originally, I was born and raised in Tel Aviv in Israel, so I grew up in Startup Nation. I did a 7-year tour in IDF and then came to the US. I started, built and sold 3 tech companies in the early 90s, in the beginning of the tech boom. And then my son started playing hockey, and my wife convinced me that another startup's not going to be a good idea in terms of time consumption. So I started getting calls from startups say, can you help me? Can you help me? Can you help me? And then myself and 2 of my partners created an advisory group that worked with 228 startups, stage 1, stage 2. And then 6 years ago, we started Cityside Venture, which is an early stage group here in Birmingham, Michigan. We have 2 investment entities, Birmingham Angels, which is a syndicate of angel investors, and Great Lake Angel Fund, which is a $15 million angel fund. We actually in the process of launching fund number 2. We invest early. In Michigan, some people have a misconception that Michigan is all automotive, but the largest industry in Michigan is healthcare, not automotive. And there's 2 big healthcare organization in Michigan, Henry Ford Health System and McLaren Health, that are very known in the country as very progressive in the innovation in the corporate venture activities. So we partner with both of them. So we agnostic when it comes to technology, but I looked at it this morning, probably 30% of the company we invested so far, either telehealth, medical device. We don't do biotech, but we do telehealth and medical devices. And we have probably close to 30 medical professionals, including doctors, surgeons, and so forth in our investment group. And a few of them are very known medical professionals. So we have an easier way to vet medtech companies or medical device company or telehealth. We like to invest early. Half the company we investing are pre-revenue, so we don't necessarily need to see the revenue yet. And we usually participate in 1 or 2 rounds of funding, not anything below Series A.
Okay.
And we so far invested in 6 years, we invested in 136 companies.
Impressive.
And that's kind of the thing. So the telehealth, the medical device space, it's a tricky in the US, particularly because it's one of those industries that it's not driven by the users, it's driven by the health systems. You can have a great product, but if the health system is not going to push it to the patients, forget about it. And a lot of the healthcare system, especially in the US, I don't know how it is in the rest of the world, did not recover fully from COVID. So capital expenses, it's not top priority for them right now. So anything that's going to cost them money to implement, they're going to say no. They're more focusing on bringing the elective surgery and elective services back to life than putting more stuff to work. And, you know, it's like any industry. I mean, we get pitched probably 10 companies a day with the telehealth space, and we keep saying it's like so saturated. And so everybody claim that they're better than the other, but Lee's Resort, which is heading the Henry Ford Health System, saying, listen, you know, we good with 1, we don't need 27, and we're not going to switch every day and twice a Sunday because somebody came with a different feature. So there's a company actually in Miami called Rook, R-O-K. I'll find it. I remember the exact name, but Rook. They're actually creating a platform that take the data from all different health tech and medical, wearable tech and everything else to one platform, normalize the data and give it back to the healthcare system. So it's become like they developed the toll road for all this stuff. So we learned one thing. We have 2 levels of tech. There's tech in the level of feature, there's a tech of level of platform, there's a tech level of industry. We prefer to stick to the industry level because feature comes and go and platforms competing with each other left and right. But if the industry adopted, then if you develop something specific industry, specific solution, specific pain point, the more likelihood you're going to get somewhere than, you know, like the AI market right now is just, 27 different chats every day, every morning get created, and there's no room for them. So, and the VCs are all around the world, especially in the US, are pretty much kind of sitting on the sideline right now, not really writing big checks. So everything we invest right now become the future deal flow for the VC when they start releasing money again, which is going to be end of next year. We invest primarily in the US, some investment in Tel Aviv, a couple in Germany. We recently connected with a group in India that we start looking at some deals through India, although it takes a little bit to learn the local market and how things get done in different countries. We did do 1 deal in France.
Wow, excellent.
Yeah, so that's who we are.
Excellent, Doron. Thank you so much for the quick insight on everything what you do, and also sharing one important point that the US healthcare system is yet to recover fully post-COVID. So I want to ask Marcela about how is everybody taking their solution developed at Realight Immersive, and how is your AR/VR technology, which is developed purely for the health tech industry, how is the healthcare industry, be it in the US or Europe or anywhere across the globe, how are they receiving your technology? Are they apprehensive about it? Do they welcome the technology by both of their hands? What is the scenario like? What have you faced so far? I want to know an insight from you.
Well, those are great questions, and I think Doron's points are very, very clear. That's definitely what is going on. So, it's actually very interesting because we didn't set out to do anything for the healthcare industry. It was a surprising development, actually, we already know that there is some evidence here for the importance of AR and VR. So, I actually was looking up some research papers in this area, and PubMed, all these kinds of things. So we know that, VR can help, reduce pain 40% and create less anxiety. We know that, kind of limb mobility can be helped also by VR. It resulted in 25% increase in upper limb mobility with patients with hemiplegia. Also, AR, now we're talking about AR, it increases patient understanding by almost 50%. In terms of what's happening, and also, anxiety. So there's things around anxiety. There's things around helping patients. Our area in particular, that the healthcare sector has come to us, and this has been in a group primarily actually in Brazil. Actually, we're not talking about that market, but interestingly, it is. Their numbers are always very big, so we've been approached by a group that has that works with 1,500 doctors who have 8,000 patients each, who have 200 conversations per day, and so our case is not actually, we're looking kind of on both sides, either side of the necessities of medical professionals. So I agree with Doran, who, features come and go, everybody's fighting for this thing, but when you actually have a use case, that starts to be very interesting. And so one thing that we've been approached with is creating AI avatars, or let's say virtual extensions of doctors who can help take away or lessen the burden on their offices, particularly in terms of answering questions, primarily pre-procedure. Another thing that we're working towards is also helping in the post-acute care scenario, how we can help patients do what they need to do and not have to then go back to the hospital after an intervention. So we know one interesting thing in this area that we found is that AI assistants that are different from the chatbots that actually have an AI intelligence behind, and particularly physiognomy, a more human face. We work with very high definition AI avatars. They can increase engagements 300%, and they can increase web traffic by 350%. So there you start having a very interesting case that the doctor can expand himself and extend himself, and the patient can get can kind of be nudged to stay out of the hospital and stay healthy.
Excellent. That's a great use case. I mean, all you're trying to do is mimic the actions being performed by the doctor by helping the AI avatar get trained by the doctor's action, and also helping the patients to reduce the time for recovering from their surgeries and everything. That's a great cause.
And sorry to interrupt you, but just one thing that I think is really interesting is that, the way that healthcare is set up, and, I live here in France now, and for example, there's very long wait times in UK and some places in Europe. And so, what if you could actually help support that, and kind of, instead of having a 1 moment shot of, a snapshot of the patient health, you can actually help along the process to, improve outcomes at the end of the day, which is what we want to do. And that has an impact on the whole, the doctor reputation, insurance costs, all these kinds of things that we know.
Excellent. Great vision. I mean,
to the point that, you find a particular point to impact. So we have a company that came out of University of Michigan that we invested called Wide Awake VR. They actually created a VR experience for all the procedure that doesn't require local anesthesia, so it's done without anesthesia. So anxiety of patients, or even taking some of the discomfort away, especially with kids. So they developed the whole system. It's easy as plug and play for the doctors, so there's no implementation or anything like that. They don't even sell the equipment. They actually loaning the equipment to the doctor, and running it over time. And then they outsource the content to Wiley, which is the largest content provider in the US, and they got into the VR. So the family that the kids go to a procedure, the mom and the kid can choose the contact before they go to procedure. They go to put the stuff, and then boom, the kids have the movies and everything else is going. And it's going like crazy. I mean, there's 7 hospitals already implemented it and outsource procedures, but they address very specific. They didn't come and say, hey, we can solve all this problem. No, I said, no. You have a lot of anxiety with kids. Yes, we can solve the problem. And how it is, we give them media and they love it. So yes, there's a lot of good technology that needed in the healthcare system, but they have to be very pinpointed to a specific pain point and solve that problem and stay away from everything else. Because everybody can come. If you do this, you can do this, and you can do no. I don't want to do any of it. I want to do this the best way possible.
Excellent. Good point you added, Doron. Just focus on one thing, one problem, and do that, master that with perfection, and forget about the rest, because all you need is just one problem identification to make your startup fly. With that, I want to come to Anurag. Anurag was smiling when you were saying that, okay, identify one problem first. So Anurag, what problem have you identified? Is that one problem finally you have identified, and now you have a solution for that problem? You want to know your journey. You can talk about it, how you identified the problem, and what you are going to do in the later point of time.
We interestingly started right at the beginning of COVID. So me and my co-founders Nikunj and Pratik, we got together full-time working on Neodocs in February 2020, and in March, India witnessed a lockdown. And like the point at VR, it is a iteration and feedback mechanism and improvement of what we were been doing. So we have experimented and tried out a few different products as well. As you say that you keep trying and have to achieve the PMF, product market fit. And fast forward, like some of the impacts of COVID, post-COVID, there were certain tailwinds, specifically in the healthcare sector. There's a lot of awareness around, it increased the awareness around healthcare. So all of a sudden, a lot of people who never would have heard of the word vaccine now know what's a vaccine, how it works, antibodies, antigens, a lot of awareness around monitoring different parameters, ranging from as small as SpO2 or BP or different blood biomarkers. Those things started rising. Preventive healthcare and all also started picking up, with a lot of people getting aware, and the accessibility, from an Indian standpoint, already you have models where someone is coming, the phlebotomist is coming to your home, getting the results done. The frequency of those results and all was getting up, and that is where we are rightly placed. So at Neodocs, what we are doing is we are making it instant. You do not require any interaction. The kits can be shipped to you wherever postal service can work, and you can do the test anytime, anywhere. And there are different problems that we are solving. So we currently are largely focused on B2B for us as a sales channel. Though we have our products listed on e-commerce platforms where we are witnessing interesting behavior, we do not spend significant amount on marketing online, but a lot of people are buying when we are getting the feedbacks and all. People are buying for their parents, people are buying for their children or their loved ones. Some of them are chronic patients who are using it as a convenient way to monitor or track it continuously instead of going to a lab or ordering a test and going through that kind of things. And another channel where we found that it fits a lot, around 4,000 plus clinicians are using our kits today in India. How we scale this B2B partnerships, where the end use case I'll tell first. So the clinicians are using these test kits at their clinics, identifying what the problem is, and prescribing the right medication instead of having the patient to go back, get a result done at a laboratory, come back for a second visit, and then start the treatment if any is required. So it reduces the time span. So the doctor's service also improves. He can serve more patients or has efficient utilization of time. For the patient, it's a added bonus. And the channel, what we have figured out is that pharmaceutical companies already have a wide reach in terms of distribution. India being a global hub, a lot of these are MNCs as well. So they helped us achieve the scale in India. And at the same time, we started receiving a lot of inbound global interest. So some of them through similar channels we have already started exploring, and in fact, even some of them have even materialized, like in African subcontinent, Southeast Asia. The only thing that
Excellent.
holds us back today is the understanding of the regulatory environment being a medical product of the target geography. So the accessibility, convenience, and for chronic patients, the ease of doing it themselves, that is something which we have figured out is the sticky thing.
Wow, excellent, excellent. So, Anurag, as you mentioned, like you started right at the start of the COVID itself. So, how have you leveraged technology, and are you using AI in your product tech? Like, is AI part of the tech stack? If yes, how easy it is to convince doctors today to trust AI, or how difficult is it? I want to know from you. And I'll also go to Marcella with this question.
So that's an interesting question. Like since AI has been buzzing in almost all the industries, ranging from healthcare, finance, cryptocurrencies, and all. So like around COVID, like I have previously developed physical devices as well, point of care diagnostic devices and all, which have been like the status quo, like the glucometer and all. One of the thing like what brought us back to the design board was that how to increase the accessibility for or the use cases or the usage adoption for such a technology. And that is where we started thinking about how to get rid of the physical hardware. Can we just strip it down to the bare minimum? And we started exploring like the cloud computing and all has become very accessible. Internet penetration is very good. Internet, like specifically in India, is not very costly as well. Smartphone, like the minimum specifications of smartphone of a base line smartphone has increased a lot. So bringing all these things together, yes, we do machine learning and AI in our product. And how it works is we leverage the user's smartphone to do the test. So beforehand, we do not know whether it is an iOS phone or it is an Android phone, which company, which model, what the specifications are there. So we use ML and AI to identify, to correct for camera different cameras. So we standardize the images there, different lighting conditions the user would have done in sunlight or different colored light, and also those kind of corrections we do on the cloud. The image that is taken is like standardized, sent to the cloud. The entire AI ML stack runs on the cloud. So we do not care if it's $100 smartphone or it is $1,000 smartphone. The results would be similar for both the users. So yes, we have leveraged this to like increase the adoption and take it to the masses.
Excellent. You mentioned one very good point that by leveraging AI, you are able to reduce the dependency on the hardware. And that is also helping you to reduce the cost and increase the scalability of the product which you're developing. I want to understand, Marcella, from your side as well, pros and cons of AI. How do you look at AI? Since you have built future of tomorrow, this insight could be really helpful from your side.
It is a great and very important and very challenging problem. AI is part of what we do. It's our bread and butter. But when you get into the healthcare space, we've been finding this out and dealing with lawyers of different jurisdictions. It's quite complicated to do something for the the healthcare field versus events or marketing and things like that. And we're discovering this as we go. So I'll give you guys some examples. So, for example, the space of AI is shifting as we speak. Legislation is coming in from many different countries. We just found out the other day that a ChatGPT cannot be used in open spaces in Italy, for example, and this may go around Europe. So
yes,
while it's a great tool, it depends on how it's used. I would be very wary of using some AI, particularly ChatGPT, to answer questions, specific questions. So you can do this experiment on your own. If you ask ChatGPT the same question several times, you may get several answers. As I'm sure many of you are aware, there are hallucinations. A lawyer has gotten in deep trouble in the US by using ChatGPT to do kind of his case, and he cited cases that don't exist. So you have these kinds of questions. And when you're talking about people's health, it's even more complicated. To add more complexity and complication, you have let's say apps and platforms, which wellness app is telling you that you can you should maybe increase the amount of vegetables you eat or do some workouts. Then you have medical apps that give you more specific medical information. Then you have medical devices, right? So the thing of how do you bridge that gap and make sure you're not getting into an area that could have very potentially negative or problematic cases. So in our case, we have to be very careful. We cannot use these kinds of AIs that come out of the box connected to the internet. They're not, we have to have we've been working with the lawyers of a client now, and it's evolving. So the lawyer just called and said we need to create we can't connect this directly, and also because there's medical malpractice suits, they need to be able to get the information and audit the information from the system. And so depending on where your system is connected, that may be complicated. So thinking about how you can create a container around this, how you can train the AI on the specific data of the medical professional, how you do not get into any kind of advice without the doctor being in the loop. Yeah, exactly. So it is very complex. And this is why I think even with the incredible potential for immersive technologies, it is very difficult for somebody who comes from that technology field to understand this world. It's a very new world. We are understanding it with our partner. We're not going in it, as ourselves and just, by ourselves, which we wouldn't do. But there are the landscape is evolving and the necessities are evolving. And now we've had to create an entire structure around our technology, and basically it will be housed in the country. So that is another element. So it's very complex, I would say.
Understood. Greatly put, Marcel. I mean, you described regulatory issues, you described the compliance issues, as well as how an AI should actually be structured and trained, which is primarily very important, because sometimes people think you can just plug and play AI into any use case and it will work and it will fly. But the reality is pretty different. I mean, you cannot use AI in certain form, certain fashion. Even if you are using it, let's say on medical data, you need to have certain permissions in place. Otherwise, you will land yourself in trouble. Thanks for highlighting that. With that, I want to move to Akash. So Akash, now we have been discussing and learning from Anurag, Marcel, as well as with Doron as well, that it's very important for any company to identify the right problem and right solution, and then go into the market with that. So in your experience, how important it is to have a GTM at the start of a startup journey, or what is the right time to have a GTM in place and then move forward with that? So when you look at from a investor lens, we want to know your insight on how do you look at GTM, what advices do you give to a startup when you're mentoring on GTM, and the timeline for it?
Right. So Priyank, GTM is definitely crucial, but when we say at the early stage, defining a GTM itself is really tough for any of the startups, right? Because usually what happens, the focus would be more on towards the idea, right? At an idea stage, like how things has to be done. And when you talk about the GTM, it will be very, very novice initially. Like we can say, like when talk about as rightly you guys are mentioning on the AI side of it, on the health tech, right? Because definitely, I mean, assisting a couple of startups on the AI part. So many of the startups have come across with a solution like so and so device can be developed, or we can do so and so good things, right? Using blood, using a lot of things we can do it, like testings. You can see in the US also a lot of examples have happened, but at the end there was the reliability was an issue, right? And when you talk about AI as such as well, AI has been I would say, in our trend right now. Every startup or every sector is trying to utilize AI, but the biggest challenge what happens here is AI is just there to support you or to guide you, right? But doesn't give you a correct answer. You need to train your model. So how much you can train your model, that is very, very crucial. So, and with respect to that, training the model, so it takes a lot of time and patience as well. You cannot simply go ahead and say that a 500 test has been done and I'm ready, my product is ready. That's not the right way, because based on case to case basis, you need to define it. So as you were mentioning with the GTM, yes, the GTM definitely matters. So you need to have a guide with you. So in order to who can drive you to the right GTM, how you can derive it, how you can take the next step, how you can derive a goal, what are the next action items for you down the line. So there exactly how it happens. Like you need to take some advisor or maybe as a mentor. It can be an accelerator as well. So that way you get the right sort of advice and the right sort of, you can say, industry experts when they're able to evaluate your product, like how you can take the next step and what kind of training models has to be accepted, how you can train your model, how you can derive the technology in the right space. Then usually we talk about the GTM. Initially talking about GTM doesn't really make sense because the focus always is on the product. Like I need to do a so as a product. But when you really pass the incubation stage, or once you have the MVP ready, then so usually you focus on the GTM. Once the product is MVP ready, you started generating revenue. I think that is the right time when you should focus on the GTM, like because you need to plan for the growth, you need to plan for the scaling of the business as well, right? So there is definitely a part of it. How you define the GTM is really, really tricky. It really varies between sector to sector, product to product, and the kind of like your audience as well. Because if what kind of audience you have, so it can be a blue collar, it can be a premium audience, it can be on the tech side, you need to have train the AI itself, right? I can see several of the products which are training the AI itself. So a lot of things are happening on the ground. So a GTM makes sense once you have the MVP in place, and then you define it in a way how you can improvise your product, what is the growth, what is the scale. So based on that, you plan it.
Excellent, good point. So you touched upon a very interesting point as well, that once you start having your revenue, you can actually, that is the time you should actually have a GTM as well, so that it can help you to accelerate and move forward to the next level. So as an investor, what are the top 3 questions or top 3 areas you look for when you are doing a due diligence of, let's assume, an AI-based company in the health tech domain?
The
top
first
3 questions.
Yes, so I would say the first thing which we try to evaluate is the market size, because market size is pretty much, I would say, random. People can come up, come up saying that this is the market size, but what we are trying to justify, what we're trying to look at is what is the market size in actual. Second, how much you can really capture. Then third becomes the competition, right? Because if you have built a super product as well, but there's a huge competition down the line, and the market size itself is pretty narrow, then there is very limitation for a growth of a company, and the saturation would be coming on the highlight. And there exactly something where we try to keep ourselves away from those kind of startups, because it's a risk for us, right? What we are looking across is like a startup. The market should be huge. Second, the competition, we need to see whether you have a right competition in place, but whether the competition not that huge enough, you can attain a majority of the stake as well. And we see a roadmap of, let's say, 100x kind of. So as an investor, the first thing every investor will talk about is, I need a 100x return, right? But is it really justifiable to say 100x can be possible when you already have the same player, or you can say have 10 different players in the same sector and with the same market, right? So you need to find out what is the market, what is the geography you're looking at, and how much you can really on general capitalize it. If you're able to capitalize that market, I think then it's a good go for us as well.
Excellent. Good points. Thanks for sharing that. With that, I want to move to Doron and ask something different. So Doron has coached more than 250 plus founders in different startups and helped them raise successful businesses, even do exits as well. So Doron, in your 25 years of experience, having coached so many people, what are the top 5 common traits you have found in all the tech founders over the years? Is there anything common? If yes, what are those?
The one common thing they all have is the uncommonality, but that's a different things. But I want to just make one comment about AI. I mean, we get pitched, every company now put AI on top of every pitch deck. But here's the reality check for everybody. There is no AI in the market yet. And we have about 10 years before we're going to have AI. We have deep tech, we have machine learning, we have different way to process data, but putting in AI and claiming there's artificial intelligence, there is no artificial intelligence. We don't have it. We'll take time until the quantum computer is going to be widely available for that. We can process those neural networks to get to any kind of accuracy. Plus, you remember the World Wide Net. I mean, the internet did not become the internet until the TCP/IP protocol got invented, the IP address. So there is no standard tool for AI yet. Nobody came with this standardized protocol. And until that will become, then AI would not develop to anything besides the Wild West. Put this aside. Regarding founders, I mean, I spent 7 years in the IDF in Israel. I was in the Navy SEAL. I was stationed in Lebanon for 2 years. So I took the kind of the playbook from the Navy SEAL that they select people to training and say, we're going to use that to select founders. So, it took us some years to translate it into, you can say traits, personality traits and competencies. But, I got coached years and years and years ago. I was very young. I worked for a consulting firm in New York, and the founder of the consulting firm, Tony Smith, which is a Harvard graduate, very smart man. And he said to me, if you cannot go down to 47 and 2nd Street in New York, standing in a corner and get a client by the end of the day, you shouldn't be in that business. And truth to be told, we actually did it for one day. I was standing in 47 and 7 at the building, and people going through, and you spark conversation with people, and I actually end up with a client by the end of the day. And so what we're looking at a founder, we're looking for somebody that he's confident but not arrogant. So you can be a little bit cocky, it's okay, but not arrogant. We're looking for somebody that listens more than talking. We're looking for a person that you can tell that they are confident enough that the ego is not being threatened and they don't in defense mode all the time. And they're willing to say to you in your face, I don't have any clue what you're talking about, or I don't know. We're looking for founders that like to draw experience from other people and not pretend they know everything. But the common thread, look, entrepreneurship, there's so many university institutions around the world teaching entrepreneurship. This is always killing me. You cannot teach entrepreneurship. You're either born with that or you don't.
Exactly.
You can teach it, but as a concept, but you either have this burning thing inside of you and you are entrepreneur by DNA or you're not. I mean, it doesn't matter how much knowledge you're going to get. It's not going to make you an entrepreneur. So we want to kind of the burning desire for somebody to build something. Somebody asks me all the time, what are you looking for? We're looking to fall in love with the founder. That's kind of
wow.
the way to say it. If I'm not falling in love with them, and then it's quite a challenge. And also we're looking for, founders that not looking at you as a checkbook. They are willing to grind themselves and bootstrapping everything and, really treat your money as their money. I always, this is a test for me. Every time I talk to an entrepreneur, look, if I'm investing in your company on an equity round, I'm your partner. I'm not your investor. So when they refer to me, my investors, and I say, that's the wrong way to relate to me. I'm your partner. I'm not your investor. I own equity in your company, so I deserve to be treated as a partner. Minority partner, but treated as a partner. So which means include me in what's happening. Talk to me as a partner. Don't relate to me as I'm an outsider, an investor. No, I own a stake of the company, so you cannot treat me like this. So you're looking for certain maturity, especially in young founders that have this level of maturity that they understand human interactions. And the startup world divided into two camps: tech founders and business founders. The tech founders will sacrifice the company for the sake of the product.
Right.
And the business person is going to sacrifice the product for the sake of the company. So I prefer the business mindset on the tech mindset, just because they understand the value of cash, they understand the value of traction. I don't care about the markets, listen, every company that pitched me going to tell me there's 9 billion people on the planet. I already know that. So don't tell me the market is this big. So tell me who are your first customer going to buy from you? And I don't care the size of it. You can create the size of your market if you have a product that people really want. So I don't care if it's 2 billion or 6 billion or 20 billion. I don't care. Mark Cubans always get irritated when people tell them the size of the market is like, don't say it to me. I already know the size of the planet. I just need to know who are your first customer going to buy from you, and they're buying it because they need it, or you're buying it because you try to convince them. So we're looking for a profitable startups model. So which means that they know who the customer, how much they're going to pay for it, and they already have some people that are willing to write the check. So is this a science? No, it's more like an art than a science, but you're doing it long enough. You put me in the room for 10, 15 minutes. I can tell you if I'm sitting in front of a driver or not. And there's a series on Netflix called Formula One Drive to Survive, and everybody needs to watch it. The one common thread in all the team, and I used to race when I was younger. So they tell you, I can have the best car, the best engine, the best sponsor, the best technology, the best crew. I don't have the right driver, I'm not going to win races. So I can fix the car, I can find a race, but I can't fix the driver.
Absolutely.
So it's the driver, the car, and the race. And 60% of the betting, or 70% of the betting is on the driver. So
excellent, nicely put up. And I like the distinction which you made between the tech founder and the business founder. Now, I want to understand one thing from you. When it comes to, let's say, starting up a venture and going great in that venture, how important is the role of IP in the overall journey as well? As an investor, how much importance or weightage do you give to any company who says that, okay, we've got some bunch of patents or IP with us? How do you look at it?
I know where you're coming from. So it used to be 10 years ago, IP was the first question investor asked you when you pitch them, do you have an IP? Now, when you come to medical devices, when you come to hardware in some cases, maybe consumer product in some points, yes, there's a lot of importance to IP. On the software side, zero importance, because you cannot protect anything, you cannot patent anything, you cannot do anything with that. I mean, all the attorneys are going to charge you a lot of money, pretend they can, but they cannot. I keep telling startup, keep it as a trade secret, put a black box around it, and forget about spending money on IP. Now, the only protection you have in IP is an IP law is the first come, first serve. So if you have adoption in the market, people using your product, that's your IP protection. I mean, forget about spending the money and doing it now. In some cases, yes, it's important to protect design or process or something like this, yes. But when it's come to tech company on the software side of it, or AI, for example, there's no attorney in the world is going to tell me he can protect any AI you develop right now, because there is 90% is a public domain. So it's important, not in the stage 1 or stage 2. If you pitch me an IP and you raise the first round of money and said, I got an IP, it doesn't mean anything. Why you got an IP? Why do you need it? You don't even know if the customer will buy the product. After you prove that there's a market, the customer buy the product, yes, sure, we'll spend money on IP. But I have a lot of IP friends, as attorneys as friends, and I tell all of them, they're robbing those startups blind in the beginning. Because if you got to an IP attorney and says, should I write a patent? They say, sure. They're going to check $50,000 and they write a patent. And then we ask them, will you be able to protect it? Well, that's a different story. And protecting an IP, there's no contingency on IP cases. So you have to pay the attorney to find it. And if you go against a bigger company, good luck with that. So
yes, apart from defensibility, IP can also help you to raise a good funding, increase your market adoption, and also get a good marketing fit as well for you, because now everybody would be just going gaga about your product and saying that, okay, these guys have got something protected, which the rest of the people cannot be able to claim that. So I want to move that with with this question to Marcela. Marcela, you've been part of tech side of things for a while, and you are head of innovation. You were head of innovation at the Museum of Tomorrow as well. How do you look at innovation and IP, and do they go hand in hand? How much importance have you guys been putting towards the IP, and has that helped you out in your journey so far?
I think that, we've definitely looked into it in the past. I have looked into it in the past. I think that, I really like the idea of IP as it originated, which is, it's there to, especially in I know about the US side of things, which is this idea that it's there to, add to the human knowledge, let's say, in the very beginning. That it's there to, so you can put things out there, protected for when it's needed, but adding to the human knowledge, because that knowledge is there. It's not lost if the creator dies, the inventor dies, all these kinds of things. I think that, in the beginning, when we're starting off, or when we are, there's many different types of innovation. You can have, business model innovation, you can actually invent a new product, you can adapt things that exist. Then it becomes more complex to do that, unless you're inventing something that's completely new and these kinds of things. But I think that sorry, you're just
You are going on mute again.
okay. I unmuted.
Yeah.
I just hit the keyboard. But I think what happens is that, when you're starting off, there's so few people that care about you and what you're doing, that you're not, nobody's even thinking about IP in the beginning. I think once you start getting some traction, things like that, it becomes something different, and it can help you in many ways. But once you're, kind of fighting for the market, and kind of, prototyping and doing tests, and focusing on what customers want, and actually getting in there, I think that the IP can come in at a later stage, and I think it can definitely make sense. And something that we looked at also in the past is getting IP in different countries also, which I think is quite interesting, because oftentimes companies, particularly anything that I've done, because I'm global in that sense, it would have to be in many different places. So I think there's an interesting case for it, particularly when you're working across sectors that can potentially, have more difficulty in being able to protect what you have created. So I think there is a role for it, in especially in other jurisdictions.
But don't forget, in an IP, if you register an IP in any kind, if it's trademark, if it's patent, if everything else, now it's in a public domain, everybody can look at that. There's a classic example of somebody in Michigan that started in autonomous driving 12 years ago, 15 years ago. He spent $1.5 million his own money, registered about 27 patents around the world. And guess what? There's a company that came with the same product, 70% the same product, but because the IP was published, they found a way around it. Now, he tried to fight them, but this is $1 billion company. So guess what? He now $3.5 million into it, and he's not going to win the case. They already have the product in the market and everything else. So you need to look at it by case basis. But when you put a trade in the US, it's a very simple solution. Every contract and every operating agreement, you put the work product release. So all the work product get created by the company, owned by the company, the providers who owns it, and everything else. The second thing, when you put a trade secret box around it, AI, for example, or whatever, you create an algorithm for something, you put a black box around it. So I'm now thinking, do I want to try to infringe on it? It's okay, but I don't know what's in the box. So I'm risking that I may be able to hit one of the mines, and I'm going to have to pay for it. But the moment I open it and publish it, then people say, oh, you're going right, I'm going to go left. Go figure. So again, if you're planning and the company have potentially can become $1 billion company, or something that can be purchased for hundreds of millions of dollars, at some point, yeah, you should spend money in IP. But in the first stage and the second stage of the company, no.
Good point. Good points.
I will say one thing though to that, Doron. I see what you're saying, and I have definitely researched patents before. I'm not gonna lie, I've researched patents before to understand what has been done in the space, how things work, especially because it does help, and that's the aspects of it that I do actually like. I think that there's lots of things to be changed by the laws themselves, and but I think that aspect is really interesting when you can kind of see how things are and how things work, because I am, I come from this space where I'm curious about how does magic.
No, absolutely right. But the classic example,
Right.
In the
No,
Let,
US,
let me add
it's not
let me add an
saying you
IP
have-
lawyer perspective here as well.
but listen,
Yes.
the biggest company in the world, Coca-Cola, the Coca-Cola formula is a trade secret. They never
That's a
registered
trade
it, they never
secret.
exposed
Yes,
it, they
yes.
didn't open it. You
The
know,
expenses
so-
to keep the formula secret is itself mammoth, and that's why they're Coca-Cola, and nobody else can actually become Coca-Cola, or even tech companies predominantly cannot even afford to do that, because the moment you're launching a product out in the market, in software domain specifically, people will just reverse engineer it. They'll open it up, they'll look at everything, each and every library which you're using, and that's where IP comes into play, because it can safeguard your approach, your algorithm and flow. And
Right.
one of the most important reason why IP laws have been created is to enhance the innovation level of the entire society. Because patent gets published, you can actually read upon what others have done in the past, and let's develop a technology which is far more superior than what others had done. And the benefit is that if somebody fails to develop anything and just wants to copy paste it, copy paste, then you have an infringer immediately because he has copied. If somebody is taking an effort to develop something, steer away, like the example which Doron mentioned, if people are trying to do that, then IP system will actually congratulate them, applaud them, and say that, you know what, you also deserve a patent for a unique approach on the problem which you identified. But the one who has already identified also gets the due credit for that. So
but
that's how the laws have been
Akash, maybe
structured.
you'll be able to attest to it. When you work with a company, stage 1, stage 2, you need to have an IP strategy. So you need to develop a strategy
Absolutely.
when you're on
Yes.
action to start protecting and
When
doing
to
this.
do what and in what jurisdiction as well, because
Right.
if you have having, let's say, multinational company, or you have businesses in multiple geographies, you need to learn and understand how things will go in those jurisdiction as well. It's not going to be like one application is fit. I mean, one size fits all. That rule doesn't apply here. You must
Right.
have a strategy, consult your lawyers, sit with them, and come up with a strategy which suits your business. It's very important to have very customized strategy so that you can move forward with that and not end up opening secrets to your competitors and lose your business as well. So that's one of the important things. We are towards the end of our session. So as I want to ask you guys to give some more wisdom away for your fellow entrepreneurs, younger entrepreneurs. So Anurag, as a young entrepreneur, what are the two key takeaways or wisdom points you want to share with your fellow entrepreneurs?
So, like we have discussed the last AI, ML question and the IP around that, but like fundamentally, till now, like you are not selling to algorithms, whether it's an investor or whether it's a decision maker or a customer, it's a human at the end. And like building trust, that becomes a paramount thing, specifically in terms of medical device and healthcare, that can people trust the device or the technology that you are building. So like, for instance, for IP, I have a perspective that a lot of buyers and all, there's another perspective when you're like clinicians and all, you have IPs, you have publications, though I totally agree with Doron that it's at the expense of putting everything out in the public domain, which may not be the best case if you are a pre-product market fit. And like the intent that is around that, you share the knowledge, but at the same time, if someone is skilled in the art, those definitions have changed with the advent of like open knowledge bases and all those things. So one is like one should be focusing on trust and what you are doing in medical devices and all, what your actions, how they are enabling that trust to be enabled with the decision maker, buyer, or the end user. The second is I'll borrow a few words from Doron again, that before having customers and all, anything which is like divulging your focus or anything which cannot add to you building a product for the right customer is a distraction and should be avoided. So like,
Wow, great point.
yes.
Build trust, and anything which brings in a distraction, just avoid it. Excellent points. Thank you so much, Anurag. Akash, what financial advice would you give to a startup or a founder?
So other than the startup and the financial advice, Priyanka, I would say when things are going on the IP, right? Because we also have filed about a lot of patents as well with a couple of our startups and for a couple of the
Right.
companies. So we have two different types of IPs, right? So if you're looking, definitely agree with Doran as well. If you're looking for just a local market, IP may not be required for you because somebody can easily steal it off. We have also seen it with a couple of our products as well. But when you talk about the geography or the expansion that you're doing, let's say I'm trying to export my products to somewhere else, right? Then yes, IP might be a very good extension for me. It can be a very good defending site for me. And even when you talk about IP as well, there are two different types of IP. You being you being a corporate lawyer helping the IP filing, you might be knowing it. We talk about two types of IP. One is a process based, and second being a formulation. So if you're trying to build up a product, you can, if you want to safeguard a product, maybe you can just go ahead with the process. So that way you're safeguarding your actual what exactly the ingredients are which you are trying to put across in the products, right? And same thing if it goes wherein your process is way more important rather than the formulation, you can go ahead with the formulation based. So depending upon what exactly should be your key focus area, you can plan for that kind of IP, whether it's a process based on formulation, and then take a call on it. And obviously it's really important when you're trying to expand yourself, not just with a local market. If you're doing it within a specific geography, I don't think it's required, because and then somebody can copy your product, because reverse engineering is very easy nowadays. Anybody can do it. So you need to avoid that. Just plan for it when exactly is needed. Now, coming to your point about financial advice, yes. So as I said, when for every startup, it's actually do not hunt for money every time, right? Because we also went through the same journey. If you're expanding yourself, or if you're able to bootstrap and build your business, I would say you should realize that you have a capability and that you can do that. But when you talk about funding as such, funding is only required when you really want to expand yourself, and you're also in a mindset that yes, whatever money you are taking in from investor, it's your money, right? So every investor, because investors betting on you, so you need to ensure that you're utilizing the money in the right manner, and you are not only just utilizing it, you're also keeping them in loop, discussing with them, because as an investor, we are not just an investor. As Doran mentioned, we are your partners. We are first investors, right? So we are always there with you from the very beginning. So we can be a strategic investor, we can be a strategic advisor, but you should be also discussing this, and that way we will be also able to guide you, not just for 1 round, 2 round, maybe for 10 different rounds as well. Maybe we take an exit, but it could be there that we will be there to help you out, because we love the idea, we love the startup, we love the founders, right? So financially, yes, until as there is need, please don't go ahead with that. You can choose which is best for you. Debt is also there. You have got equity as well, but do not blindly go across saying that I'm going with an equity. Because equity is always expensive. Many of the founders may not be knowing it. Equity, they think that equity is very easy to take in, but that's wrong. Debt always comes there, because debt is cheaper than your equity actually. So plan it based on your growth cycle. If you're looking for a growth, maybe equity can help you out. But if you want to do a 2x kind of growth, I think debt can also help you out. So plan your financials based on your need and your growth pattern as well. I'm happy to discuss, or happy to know about any of the founders have any sort of ideas, want to connect with us, happy to engage as well.
Excellent pieces of advice. Thank you so much, Akash. Really love the piece that equity is expensive, go for the debt if it's for the 2x of create. So again, sit with your strategists, talk to your investors. They are the ones who trusted you first, invested money on you. So go ahead and talk to them. They are your partners, not your enemies. They are not just asking questions to you. They are asking questions to you because they believe in you, and they believed in you in the first go itself. So go and talk to them. All the founders, please listen to Akash and Doran here. Marcella, what advice would you give to a young entrepreneur or the young generation who's coming in? Your take on the two advices.
Well, I think those are excellent. Having worked at a VC and then have been part of an acceleration program, I think that lots of times founders get so kind of focused on the VC that they forget the customer entirely, and so it's all about pleasing the VC and doing the pitch for the VC. Yeah. And so what I would say is, I agree with both of those, and I agree that VCs, you have to choose them based on being a partner for sure. But I think that, you know, the best thing is just to get out of the building, as Steve Blank says, and just go towards the customer, and all the time towards the customer, and seeing what things work, and putting things out there, putting ugly things out there, you know, things that are not ready. At the same time, in the health tech space, which is a space that, you know, we're getting to, you know, getting very in depth now, you know, versus this idea of move fast and break things, that is the kind of the tech funnel. We'll figure that out later. You know, this is move slow and be very careful, because people's lives are involved. And so I think that, you know, it's a different mindset for people from the technology space to wrap their heads around. But I think that it's really being careful with that, and really kind of organizing that, your whole structure around that, and getting to the client as close as possible, getting to the customer, the patient, the doctor, to really, you know, help them do what they need to do, and just to be iterating around that, but very carefully, given the constantly changing landscape of AI and high tech in this stage. So those two things at the same time. That's what I would say.
Wow, excellent, lovely share. Thank you so much, Marcela. Doron, what advice would you give to the younger generation when it comes to building up startups?
So there's a couple of them. One, regarding fundraising, I mean, make sure you find smart money, not dumb money. So find the investor that can add value beyond money to you. That's one, and they're willing to. Regarding the startup, in the tech world, it's like dog's life. 1 year in a tech company's life is like 7 years in the traditional business. So when you building your company and you get to a point that you're willing to lend and expand, you have to very carefully selecting your lending spot, and you need to make sure that startup, the organization fitness is at a high level, and you have all the people in the right condition to expand the moment you lend. Because in the tech world, if you're lending and you're not expanding, you're a lame duck, and other company going to run all over you. So it's the first, it's a military term, when you're lending in the spot, you have to become offensive on the get-go, otherwise you become a target. So you have to be ready to lend and expand. So your organization needs to be organized. You have to have the right people in the right seats. You have to have the capital. Everything is planned ahead. When you lend, you cannot say, okay, we lend and now we're going to sit down and drink beer. No, you need to expand very fast. Otherwise you become history very quickly.
Excellent. Expand very fast, otherwise you'll become the history. That's a great closing remarks even we can have for our show today. Thank you so much, all of you, Anurag, Akash, Marcela, and Doron. Thanks for coming on board and sharing your wisdom. You guys have been absolute giver. I loved having conversation with you. We discussed so many topics and would love to be in touch with you as well. Thank you so much again for coming on board and sharing your knowledge and wisdom with everybody else. I'm sure all the participants and people who are following us from different part of the countries, different part of the world, can actually learn a lot from all of you guys. Thanks again. This is Priyank, your host for tonight, signing off.
Thank you.
See you again, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks. Take care.
Thank you.